Oliniov here. Welcome back to Loud Cry, episode 2. Tonight we are stepping into a very important but a very real topic, propaganda and mind control. And we are going to look at what they are, how they work, and why they matter right now. So I'm joined by my first guest and a very important one. It is because of Philip that I've grown quite a lot in the last year or two. And Philip Jimenez is himself a content creator, but a deep researcher. If you want to know and to start your research platform, start with Philip. You can go to his YouTube channel. The documents and the articles and the information he will give you on there is stuff that you can hold on to. It's stuff that will give you authority when you are explaining your truth to people. So my advice to you is start with Philip's YouTube channel. It is excellent information. So Philip, welcome to Loud Cry, and thank you so much. Such a big honor for me.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So it's exciting.
It
I
is.
think there's big transitional things going on
Absolutely. Absolutely.
in
Right.
this area.
So before we begin, I want to ask 3 questions for everyone that's listening. The first one is, why are we constantly being pushed into fear? The second question, why are entire countries painted as enemies? And why does truth feel like something we have to search for instead of something that is freely given? So those 3 questions, hold them in the back of your mind. So I'm going to unpack this with Philip very carefully for you tonight. There's 2 main points I want you to take away at the end, and I will tell you when we get there. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm just going to give you a very simple definition of propaganda. So fear is one of the oldest forms of control. It bypasses your logic, it weakens your reasoning, and it reshapes your beliefs, your relationships, and even your moral choices. So when we talk about fear propaganda, we're talking about the manipulation of your ability to think clearly so that you start making emotional decisions based on perceived threats. That perception, that perceived, that is where they do the mind control, and we will show you clearly how it works. So when that happens repeatedly, crisis after crisis, it begins to shape how you think. So Philip, how would you define propaganda to our audience?
Well, it's a form of mind control. I would say it's a product of mind control. It is manipulation through media, media and messaging, and it is mind control. And it's a very clever blend of news-like content with outright fiction. And I think that now we're in a situation where we absolutely can't trust anything that we see. I think even back in the 80s, there was more honesty. Now, when you turn on the TV or whatever, it's going to be all lies and all manipulation. And you're right. Fear, anger, and excitement, they make us very suggestible and they obscure our judgment. So the suggestibility part is what's important because they're trying to motivate us to take actions which are not in our own best interests. That's basically the feature of it. I think it's important to note that it all comes from an oligarchy, that there is an occulted oligarchy, which occulted means hidden. These are people who are extremely powerful and stay out of the public eye, and they have family lineages that go back millennia, and they've been studying the ordinary common person for thousands of years, and they've distilled from this experience a science of mind control and a science of propaganda to manipulate us into doing things that are not in our own best interests and the enhancement of their power and their wealth. So that's really the motivation behind it. It's important to remember that it's an oligarchy. It's an oligarchical program that's deployed against the human race. The idea of, oh, I've been thinking about this a lot, and the second question had to do with countries, isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Why do we? Yeah, most of this, 90% of this is a fiction. When you look at the very powerful aristocratic families that control the world, for them, countries are like playing cards. They don't really exist. They're kind of like legal fictions, and uh, they play one off against the other. They sometimes have their feet in many different locations. Some of these very powerful families are, they're in Geneva, they're in Venice, they're in Moscow. They're all over the place, and they have a non-territorial kind of yes, their influence is everywhere. So the idea that Russia is our enemy or that China is our enemy and all this stuff is complete nonsense. There's obviously something deeper going on. It always has to do with securing natural resources. And of course, they're always interested in depopulation. They're always interested in more control. Governments are their pawns. I mean, what we're dealing with an apparatus, which is the Tavistock Institute. The Tavistock Institute is the #1 premier brainwashing center of the world.
Correct.
And it's attributed to being an extension of MI6, and then it's an extension of the Crown.
Correct.
But in actual fact, it serves the interests of the continental aristocracy, who are older and more powerful families, whom, in my view, they have farmed out the administrative duties of the aristocracy. More powerful families would be, I'm not going to name them here, but they have their offices in Geneva, and Geneva transmits their wishes to London, and then London swings into action and puts together these mind control programs out of Tavistock, which are then deployed worldwide because they have nodes. They're called nodes all over the planet.
We call them NGOs, think tanks, all those
NGOs
UN companies. Yes, yes. They promote academia, the ideology.
Exactly. So academia, think tanks, media, Hollywood is a big part of Tavistock. Advertising, it's everywhere. FBI, CIA, all of these organizations. Tavistock has their 1,000 tentacles in all of these things. They're working on perfecting it. You'll recall that in the 60s and 70s, there was the counterculture movement, in which Tavistock, through Aldous Huxley, introduced LSD, psychotropic drugs, and the counterculture into American college campuses. And the idea was, Aldous Huxley is famously known for saying that in the future there will be a kind of painless authoritarianism where people will rather enjoy their servitude because they'll be on drugs and they'll be feeling no pain and they won't have any worries. And you can read this sort of laid out in Brave New World.
Okay. Yeah.
And the tech bros and the high tech sector, all of this was military intelligence. So when you're talking about, Silicon Valley was set up by military intelligence.
Yes.
And then the orders from that come from MI6.
Correct.
And then that's also Tavistock. That's psychological warfare.
Correct. That takes us into mind control. So the propaganda arm is done now. So I just want to quickly just give you a basic description of mind control, and then he's going to continue because he's going into the mind control section now. So mind control doesn't mean something dramatic or obvious. It simply means influencing, as he also said, a person to such a degree that they begin to think feel, and act in ways that are not entirely their own. And so at some point we have to ask the question, who taught us to think the way that we think? So, Philip, you've sort of explained it now, but I just want to make it clear to the audience. Would you say that propaganda and mind control are separate, or are they actually the same system?
So it's completely coordinated. They're inseparable.
Yes.
Because the propaganda and the mind control are woven together, and they influence
Correct.
people through academia, education.
So forming
So
their
it goes through,
ideological.
yeah, ideology. It's such a powerful
Absolutely.
drug. Once that really gets into people, you cannot
Yes.
reason with them. And back in the 80s, the 70s and 80s, you still could. You could have a civilized dialogue with somebody you didn't agree with, and you might even change each other's minds slightly. And you could, shake hands and go have a beer, but this is no longer the case.
Correct.
People are absolutely rabid with this stuff.
That is correct. So the whole battlefield has now become the human mind. So it's not always about what is happening, but how you perceive what is happening. And that's what Philip is trying to tell you now. So they attack your perception. They mold your ideology. And they do it so strongly that, like Philip said, when you try and introduce a different point of view, that people are so stuck in the ideology that's been programmed on them that they cannot get out of it. So it's not the world that blinds you, but the narrowness of perception. And that doesn't make you bad or stupid. It's just that the mind control has been done from a very early age, from school age. It's on the TV, like Philip said, on the movies, it is in the mainstream media. Whenever you go on any social platform, the brainwashing is there. So it's an ideology that they are pushing on you. So, and this is where propaganda becomes dangerous. It is not just lying, it's also a distortion of truth. This is the part you have to understand very well. Deception and truth goes very closely together. So they only change a small part of the truth, and it's enough to change the way that you think about something. So it is also the manipulation of consent. And this is the important part. This is where the making decisions comes in. They make you think that you are making the decision, that it's a good decision, but all the time they've already programmed your ideology so that when the time comes for you to choose, you will make the wrong choice naturally and you will think you're doing a good thing. And the other thing that's also, it's the shaping of perception to control your behavior. So your decision making, what actions you take on yourself, even if it's harmful to yourself, you're still going to do it because you have been programmed that what you are doing is the right thing. So when the truth is now presented to you, you get cognitive dissonance because the lie has been so fastened in your intellect that when you receive the truth, you think that the truth is the lie. You cannot process it. So it's not because you are stupid, it's because the programming is perfected. So examples of tools that they use with mind control and propaganda is omission, it's distortion, it's misdirection, it is repetition. Remember with 9/11, those loops of the planes flying into the building. Over and over those loops rolled. And you'll remember with COVID as well, the same slogans were said over and over and over again. Every news channel you put on there, the same propaganda is being promoted. And then false flags, coercion. And coercion has got two parts. Do this and you get a reward. Or don't do what we tell you to do and you get penalized. Okay, so
you could be ostracized.
Oh, terrible. If you look at the academics like Dr. Piers Robinson, Dr. David Miller, Dr. Mike Eden, all the guys, Dr. Stefan Lanka, Dr. Sam and Mark Bailey, all of them that's got authorization behind their voices, they got ostracized, they got shamed, they got sacked. Their lives, Dr. Sam Bailey's bank account was frozen. She couldn't get to her money.
Mhm,
So we'll
mhm,
get to the control part
mhm.
now. So I just want to lay the foundation first. So Philip, can you give us a real world example now, a current example, or any example that you can think of where propaganda has so successfully been applied to?
Well, I remember my own. First of all, let me just go back. Yeah, definitely. It's the external control of the mind. It's the goal is to get you to doubt your own senses. The early pioneers, it might have been Huxley himself who said, we need to convince children that snow is black. And if you can get to them before the age of 10, you can achieve that. And then we should quantify how much it's going to cost per head to convince children that snow is black. So the idea is if you can get people to doubt or have a completely false view of the world, of objective reality, and they don't even believe their own senses, they're of course much more malleable. So there is that disruption, that the need to totally disrupt all your senses. As far as current examples, I mean, let's go to 9/11. I was in New York on 9/11, and I have a strong memory. This is way before I had any kind of awakening. And you know, Dimitri Khalezov was the person who woke me out of my slumber. But I remember looking at the TV and thinking, something about this doesn't look right. Physically, the physics, that's a little airplane, and how much fuel is there in this whole building? But I thought, but you see the erosion of education,
Mm,
where the average American cannot read at a fifth grade level
mm,
anymore. And you go back to 1943, Winston Churchill and the psychological warfare apparatus were actually um, promoting something they were calling basic. It was a language. It
mhm.
was You took the English language and you stripped it down to 850 words, no more than that. It's a kind of
Dumbing down.
equalizing,
Yeah, dumbing down
dumbing
people.
down. But
Yeah.
he came over, and Roosevelt, to his credit, said, "This is silly." And literary people with literary sensitivity and sensibility were appalled by this. They were shocked. How can you even propose such a thing? Nevertheless, Churchill and his gang were pushing for this thing called basic.
Mm.
What I think now is very disconcerting is that now I think if they tried something like that now, I think a lot of people would go for it, and they would believe that it was bringing a kind of social equity. The thing is, and I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself, but I'm talking about the antidote to all of this.
Mhm.
Classic literature,
Mm.
you know, nuanced language. I think the power of language is in the nuance of the
Mhm.
language, which is why when I talked about Churchill's ridiculous idea of this
800
so-called
and
basic English, right? Because if they remove the ability of people to be articulate,
mm,
not only about in terms of forming a prescient kind of critique of society, but the inability to be eloquent about the passions that we are stirred up in us as we survey
absolutely.
this these horrors,
Mhm.
that's
Because
that's one way of keeping.
they don't want us to express our this reaction to what they are doing. That's why they're taking your ability to express yourself away.
They don't want us to express it well,
Yeah.
because they want to reserve. My feeling is they want to reserve the highest usage of the English language to themselves,
Yes.
and they want the peasants to speak a depleted, impoverished form of the language that can't be taken seriously.
Sure.
So this was, the attack on the English language, because there was an article in the Telegraph a few months back warning, cautioning educated parents, when you at night you read to your children, you might be contributing to inequities in society. You're giving your white children or educated children, a leg up that less fortunate children don't have. So maybe you shouldn't read to your children. This to me is like the most, this is the worst form of evil.
Absolutely. I mean, if I think back on my daughter, our best times was story time, and we had this beautiful set of Bible commentaries for children. And it explained the Bible so beautifully, but the language used in it was of a very high quality. And I mean, if you take that away,
Exactly.
And my child, we are Afrikaans, but my child, you will never say she's Afrikaans. She's completely fluent. She sounds like an English person because I read for her from a small age, English, English, English. She's got such a good
I got the
command
same
of
thing,
English.
the classics,
Yeah.
prime the mind to process language on a higher level.
Yes.
They prepare you
And it
for
develops their creativity as well. Reading develops your
exactly.
creativity. It's so important. Yeah, I cannot believe what I
Yeah.
hear, Philip. It's shocking. And it's actually a pattern that they are building. They're doing it with every generation, just like they are doing with the propaganda and the mind control. There's a pattern with everything they do. If you learn the patterns, you can start recognizing the system. Because everyone is talking about the Antichrist, but it's not a person, it is an Antichrist system. And it's got a very recognizable pattern, which takes us into the next layer, which is quite a bit deeper. I want to explain to them. You will see if you start watching the mainstream media and all the events happening, you can especially watch these regime change wars. It's got a very selective pattern. They create the chaos and they give the answer. Now, they've primed your mind. Now you accept that answer. But if the fear and the chaos was not present, you never would have accepted that answer. So with the regime change, it's a very simple pattern they're following. First, they sanction the country where they want to effect regime change on. Then they cause chaos by infiltrating that country and stirring the citizens up against the government. Then they create a false flag operation. So it looks like the government's attacking their own people, which is not true. You can see it so clearly with Iran war now. And then they simply do a regime change and they put a puppet in place of the government. They take away the sovereignty from that country and they've got government control over that country. So this is where these two arms that I want you to see clearly. With the government control, like Philip said, it comes in with Tavistock, NGOs, think tanks, media, education, like is so brilliantly expressed now. So they first get control over the governments. That is where the one world government system comes from. It comes from this Tavistock ideology, and it's satanic. It's satanic to the core. Then we go into the ideology of mind control. This is more about ecumenism, about the religious arm. So now they want to also impose a one world religion because this religion is not a good religion. It's to take over your religious liberty, to take over your freedom of choice of who do I want to worship? How do I want to worship? When do I want to worship? That's what they are taking away from you. And they are going to implement it so smoothly. Everything is already in place with the central banking, digital currency, and ID. So if you do not want to go with them, they just simply do a regime change in your country. They take your sovereignty. And if you do not want to go with the new one world religious system, they simply block your account. You cannot sell, you cannot buy, you cannot do anything. So humanity, their purpose is I don't know if you can remember, Philip, that Harari from World Economic Forum said, our engineering is getting to such a level that human beings can be engineered to be hackable animals. And that is exactly
Hackable
what,
animals.
yes, they are hacking your perception, your ideology, so that it's going to feel that you are making the right decisions. But meantime, they have already changed your perception. So you're not making a decision on truth. You are making a decision on emotion and on deception.
Right.
Does that make sense?
You feel that you have thought it through. You
Yes.
feel you've thought it through yourself. That underpins the effectiveness of mind control. People have to believe that they've reached these conclusions on their own. They genuinely think these things.
Correct.
With regard to the quote of Yuval Harari, I think it's important to point out that there's a direct line back to the Venetians who didn't believe that humans had souls, that they were basically biological machines that could be controlled. And everything we're seeing from Tavistock and from, as we understand, the British Empire. Oh, and by the way, a lot of this got started during the Boer War because the British became so unbelievably unpopular in the world. They needed to start using forms of distorted media, propaganda, in order to maintain their status as they transitioned from an empire into the Commonwealth. And as they said, you know what, it's easier to control people's minds. So we'll talk about the empire of the mind as opposed to the territorial traditional British Empire. You know, what they did to the Boers were war crimes of the worst variety.
Yes, like Gaza.
But what they were taught was a methodology that originates with the Venetians. And this is what a lot of people don't, most people, of course, almost nobody goes back to this. That British intelligence received its tutelage from the Venetians at Padua University. There were change agents. There were extremely bright polymaths, Paolo Sarpi, Gasparo Contarini. These were Venetians who shaped the epistemology of Europe in general, but also, you know, as after during when all of the European countries had enough of the Venetians, of their usury. Hey, we're very vulnerable here in the lagoon. We don't have much of an army. They could come down and destroy us anytime. So what we'll do is we'll put more emphasis on
the mind,
on
mind control,
on controlling what people believe.
Yes.
And starting the religious wars in Germany was a big part of their project.
That's it.
And then, of course, when they finally, the Venetian Party of the North, taking control during Henry VIII of England, then they were able to establish the beachhead. It was the Venetians that set up the Bank of England and that set up the British East India Company. And this idea that we hear echoed from Yuval Harari at the World Economic Forum is a direct echo of the Venetian view of man as a hackable animal, not as a creature created in the image of God, endowed with creative reason, but as a beast to be controlled.
And if you listen at the slogans that they keep on using, unity through control, centralized systems, a global structure of authority. This all comes back to those two ideologies, Tavistock and Alice Bailey. A global control system, government, religious control, and they want to put the two together. So the religious arm will tell the governments what to do, and the enforcement will come through the government system, this global system, this central banking digital currency. It's actually already in place. Do you remember those Canadian truck drivers that was stopping the entire Canada a while ago, and they simply blocked their bank accounts? So they can control everything already. It's not like it must still be
Tragic.
put in place.
All of this goes back to the Venetians. The Venetians pioneered all of this.
Okay.
Epistemological warfare, it's called, shaping how people see the world, how they interpret the world.
Yeah. The turning point is this. Yes, deception exists, but so does truth. And truth is not something that should be hidden or controlled. It is something that should be revealed. And this is where faith becomes really important, and that I want to impress on all of your minds. You cannot build faith without a relationship with God. You have to walk a path with Him. And when you've got that faith, then only can you start to handle and see clearly. Because if you go and study Bible prophecy, you will see that we are exactly where we should be. The Bible's timeline is spot on. And everything that is happening to us now has been prophesied in the Bible. And you will get absolute clarity just from studying Bible prophecy in Daniel and Revelation. So the last part, we and Philip just want to give you some little bit of advice. What helped for me was the following 6 things. I stepped away from mainstream media as my main source of information. I started listening to people like Philip Jimenez, Dimitri Khalezov, Dr. Piers Robinson, Dr. David Miller, Dr. Stefan Lanka, Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, the 2 Baileys. You have to, and another great source, please do not miss this, is the Grey Zone. If you want to understand what's happening in Iran, Syria, all those Eastern Bloc countries, go and listen to the Grey Zone. Max Blumenthal is an exceptionally brave and good journalist. He will take you exactly to what's happening, to the infiltration, to how they are manipulating this entire narrative of regime change. Then another source is Propaganda and Focus. You can find it on Facebook. It's a section of Dr. Piers Robinson. It's articles written by really, really strong academics that are against the system and has been fighting very bravely to work against this. And all of them have paid a dear price to fight for this truth. So Propaganda and Focus, Grey Zone, and all those notes. But I will put all the references for you in the description part of this section. So that was the first thing. Break away from mainstream media. For Pete's sake, do not believe your television. Stay grounded. Don't react emotionally to every crisis. This I learned from Philip. So you will see the guys who knows what they're talking about. They will usually take a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months before they start seeing the pattern, and only then will they write something about it. So once you see something happening in the mainstream media and they keep on repeating it, wait, don't react, don't make a decision, stand back, check your other resources that I'm going to give you, and only after about a month you will start seeing the truth of what is really happening. Okay, that's very important. The third thing is keep your mind active with good things. Learn a new language, learn how to play an instrument, study Bible prophecy. The Bible is incredibly good to develop your mind and thinking. You really have to put yourself out there to understand time prophecies, Daniel and Revelation. It's amazing how the whole Bible just fits like a puzzle piece into each other, Old and New Testament. Then take care of your physical health, especially your gut health, because your gut health influences your frontal lobe. Your frontal lobe is your network where you communicate. If that is unclear, your reasoning, your critical thinking, all that is going to be influenced. All right. So then stay rooted in truth and faith. I already said to you, you cannot build faith without a relationship with God. I cannot give you my faith. You have to learn to trust God by yourself. And then when you pray, this is a simple prayer, and I challenge you all to pray this prayer. Just ask God, God, please, if there's something that I need to know, please reveal it to me. Trust me. He cannot wait to show you. He's going to bulldoze you with information. And then when it gives you the light, accept it, don't reject it. Have an attitude of a student, being willing to learn. You don't have to accept everything, but open up your mind so that you can take in new information. So, Philip, what would you suggest to the audience how they can protect themselves?
This is what I do. Explore your mind. Don't be afraid of the silence. Don't be afraid of uncertainty. Just be there with it. You have a direct line. If you spend time with that, you attune yourself to it, you put it number one, then all of these human machinations, all of this Venetian party stuff, all of this Tavistock stuff, it seemed pretty lightweight by
Absolutely.
comparison. People
Yes.
people get swept up in it because they have nothing else. Their people are desperate. They don't trust themselves. They need immediate answers. They need to be told how to think and how to feel about things. And you can offset that. You can completely flip that by understanding that you, on your own, you have a direct line to God, whatever you want to call
Absolutely.
it. It's
Absolutely.
there, infinite. It's
Yes.
infinite. And the more time you spend with it, the more discerning you will become. You will learn to filter out and see
Definitely.
immediately the false messaging that you're getting.
Yes.
I would also recommend reading classics. Have a very high level of language. You know, back then there were no movies. Everything had to be conveyed in the novel. It had to hit you on a gut level. It had to involve all your senses. My feeling is that if you really read this literature, read great literature, take it apart, savor it, really examine what makes it great, reading passages over and over until you understand why certain words bring out something in you and make you feel something you've never felt before. I think this is a very important practice. But the
Okay.
idea that the highest level of humanity is this capacity. We're made in the image of God, therefore we have creative reason, and to celebrate great writers and great artists
Absolutely.
in that Renaissance spirit. The Renaissance spirit has been, the Venetians attacked the Renaissance. It was seen as something terribly threatening to the oligarchy. We can't let people feel that they're made in the image of God. We can't let people
Yes.
just create and invent and discover. They could end up,
But that's
taking
satanic
our.
as well. It's so satanic to go against that because that's exactly what the Bible principle is. You are created in the image of God.
Right. Which is directly opposite of the hackable animal view of mankind.
Yes.
So my view is there's been basically throughout human history these two strains. One believes that in Renaissance principles, in this idea that we're made in the image of God, that we have creative reason, and the other strain that says, no, you're a bunch of slaves, you're hackable animals. We need to get control. Trust us. Yeah, wash you. We'll get you to euthanize yourselves by the time you're 25. Yes. This is what's coming, right?
I know, I saw, but we're not getting into that now.
Connect with your source once or twice a day deeply.
Yes,
you will become impervious.
Absolutely.
You will become impervious to the perturbations and manipulations of brainwashing and mind control.
Absolutely. I do Bible study in the morning and I do a reflection again at night. And I cannot go without it, Philip. If I break that connection, the days that I do not do my Bible study in the morning and the day goes chaotic and I go back and I say, okay, let me see what would have happened if I did my Bible study and I listened to the instructions given to me, my day would have been perfect. So I agree with you 100%. So let's just summarize this episode 2. Propaganda and mind control are not separate. They are part of the same system. A system designed to influence your perception, shape your belief, and ultimately control your behavior. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Then you are outside of the system. Then you can start putting things in place. And remember, you cannot really reverse what is coming. But you can prepare yourself. You can tell yourself, these are my principles. This is how far I'm willing to go with it. And after that, you must be able to feed yourself, give yourself clean water, and have a roof over your head. Because once you go against the system, you will not be able to sell or buy. They will totally block you off. And you're going to have to count the cost. You have to make the calculation and say to yourself, am I going to stand for truth or am I going to go with the system? So, Philip, how can I thank you enough? It's not enough time for you. I know you've got so much information, much your insights were very valuable. As I say, we don't have enough time. Philip, all the links I'll
All
put in the
right.
description, and then join me next Thursday again, same time, same place. And this was my second loud cry.